Welcome to the world united. Welcome to the world united.
Well, good morning. This is Marbeth Dunn. I'm Marbeth Dunn with the World United and the World Spiritual Parliament. And I'm so blessed today to have with us a wonderful, wonderful, amazing spiritual being who is gifted us with her presence today. We have Sister Dr. Jenna, and she's an acclaimed and trusted spiritual mentor. She's committed to bridging divides in societies and building relationships between global influencers. And she's amazing. She has founded and is the director of two Brahmakumaris meditation museums in the Washington, D.C. area. She's also the host of a very popular America Meditating radio show. She's the recipient of the President's Lifetime National Community Service Award. She's a member of the Evolutionary Leaders Circle. It's a group of thought leaders from diverse disciplines in service to conscious evolution. She was selected by the Empower a Billion Women 2020 as one of the 100 most influential leaders of 2015. She's also, as if that was not enough, she's also a principal partner with the Oprah Winfrey Network and Values Partnership on the Belief Team, which is a community of individuals and diverse spiritual, cultural, and faith backgrounds. And she was awarded an honorary Doctor of Humane Letters degree by St. Thomas Aquinas College for her many years of dedication. She is bridging divisive people, pulling them all together. And I'm just so excited to have the gift of being here with you today. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Marbeth, it's my pleasure to be with you and all of you out there that have taken the time to tune into this important parliament of discussion. And for all the guest speakers that have come on before, my deepest namaste to you and those who will come on after me. I know maybe a lot of people have been listening to sharings from many voices, and you sometimes wonder, what do we do with all of it? Even when Marbeth was doing my bio, I was like, nah, just say Sister Jenna, the little girl out there doing her thing. And that's just how I feel. But because the world has been a world that says, well, show me your credentials before I can let you in the door, it's not always that important. For me, it's more the character of the person that should let someone in the door. And that you get to know more about that person with your interactions and your ongoing, activities with the person. But thank you for having me. I'm so honored and so deeply moved and touched. Thank you so much.
Well, I don't know where to dive in. There's just so much. So let's start with talking about the Brahmakumaris. Now, this is a women-led, a spiritual global movement. Tell us about that.
I don't necessarily feel like I'm the most important voice to speak on the Brahmakumaris, and I'll tell you why. When the founder started this movement in the 30s, Brahma Baba, it was a download. It was something that awakened in him in the 30s. But what is so profound about the genesis of the Brahmakumaris is the fact that the spiritual awakening took place through a male body, through a man. But a few years after, that same man realized, I can't change the world, it'll be the woman who will do it. So when he brought on board 8 most profoundly beautiful women who we call today the Dadis, and we just lost one in March of this year, Daddy Janki at 104, those are the voices that I would love to answer, would answer your question, but I'll tell you from what I know and what I have felt at a personal level. It is huge, it is extensive, but it's extensive in terms of the spiritual bandwidth of the members and the volunteers and the people who somehow resonate with the interest, if I change, the world's going to change. And even though it is so socially active, I mean, if we were to give you our resume, so to speak, on how much this nonprofit has done around the world, you would say this is unbelievable, you're lying, this isn't true, but it has. It has by far broken any record of a non-profit spiritual group to do the kind of service it does for humanity. And I believe the reason why the Brahmakumaris has been this very quiet, consistent movement is because everyone participating in the movement knows I can't change the world unless I've sorted out myself. So the organization has moved, Marbeth, with that tenet for over 80-something years. It is deeply rooted in principles, in values, in community, in connectivity. But one of the main threads that I have observed in the movement of the Brahmakumaris is the generosity of people, the integrity of the people, and the courage of the people. The fact that they believe I can change. I can change myself to become a better version so the world can become golden aged. And so I wanted to put the Brahmakumaris in that context because I can give you all the medals and prizes and 9,000 centers in 120 countries with 1 million volunteers, but nobody will understand how we got there. We got there because of dedicated people who had awakened something in themselves and said, I've got to change myself. I can't keep carrying on like this for the rest of my life. And this doesn't help our world. So I hope that helped in terms of giving a little bit of an insight to this fascinating organization.
What I think is really interesting, I practice Kundalini yoga. I'm an instructor. Yogi Bhajan wrote 17 books for women, and I think only 1 or 2 for men. He said that women would be the leaders, and I think that's being manifested in the Brahmakumaris. That's
Yes.
really so beautiful. Now, your main philosophy as a Brahmakumari is Raja Yoga meditation. So why is this different from other meditations?
I don't know if it's different. I know that it is a form of reflection. It's a form of yoga. It's a form of meditation that if you resonate with it, then it will bring you closer to a sense of self-mastery. On the tier of yoga, Raj Yoga is known to be the highest because you have to fix this. It's not a physical posture that's needed. It's the inner posture that's needed. So I believe the only thing that's a little bit of a refinement of Raj Yoga meditation is the fact that it breaks away all the human connectivity in terms of having a God in front of you or having a physical form of a God in front of you. And it turns your attention inwards to remember the Supreme God, the Supreme One, the ocean of love. And in all of our Brahmakumari centers, there's an image that we have of light. And what the light is symbolic of is that you are the light, but also the energy of God, because it's the ocean of purity and love, is the supreme unlimited light. So in the teachings of Raj Yoga, it says, connect to this being, connect to the source, connect to the light, and refill your light within that you have lost as a result of traveling so long for birth after birth after birth. You've kind of lost your glow. So the more you can remember the source above, then the glow will come back. And that's how we start to really see the changes happening in our environment, in our relationships, with our health. Many, many positive things that come out of it. So the way that the Brahmakumaris offers Raj Yoga is more focused on a relationship with the self, with God, and with the rest of humanity.
And I understand it's with the eyes open that you do the meditation.
Yeah, open-eyed meditation is really important because we've been conditioned to practice with eyes closed, and when life is unfolding and situations are occurring that are not comfortable for you, you can't go into your, oh, hold a minute, let me and then come out. But with your eyes open and using spiritual knowledge, that each soul in front of you is playing their part. What is my part to play? So you can keep your eyes open while you're in meditating, and even in a very challenging situation, you can look at the person with your connection that you're having between the self and God, and just say, I'm so sorry you feel that way. I didn't mean to hurt you. You can come from that yogic place within because you practice with eyes opened and you keep allowing that vibration of your connection between soul and the Supreme to spread far and wide. I think it's really important.
That's really beautiful. I mean, I've always learned to meditate with my eyes closed, but I have been in that space where you can feel yourself in the field of love. You're there at the same time as you're here. So I think
There's a very famous journalist in America called David Brooks. He's a writer for the New York Times, and he's been exploring this whole idea of being able to share love through the eyes. I met with him in Aspen, and I was telling him in our community we do something called Drishti, Drishti. And what Drishti is, before you say your hello, you kind of turn to the person and you're in the awareness of the soul, and you're pulling the energy of God's love into you as a consciousness, and then you greet the person with your Om Shanti. And so that vibration of pure love gets transmitted between you and the person, and then you go into a dialogue. And he was so fascinated by that explanation of it that he is now incorporating it in some of his writings. And so I think we're not able to see into each other because we're so distracted by all the theater that's going on in the world right now. This is why your conference is so important at this time, because people are looking for tools. I'm even looking for tools on my journey. I'm looking for new tools that can keep my light lit.
it's really beautiful because these are very intense times. We have the COVID pandemic. It's brought the world to its knees with massive unemployment, massive protests, and all around the world, all races, all ethnicities, all religions, and ages. People are coming together. They want equality. They want change. What is your take on this? What is the spiritual significance of these times?
Take it from my perspective. When I got into my awakening of yoga, all of my dirty stuff would come up. When I was realizing that the natural nature of the soul is pure, and that I, the soul, am peaceful and powerful beyond measure, I started to become acclimated that that's really me. So what has happened? You mean to tell me all this time I've been living an illusion? And so the illusion that I had recognized that the soul was being influenced by is this acronym that I'd like to offer all of our viewers. ALGE. Remember ALGE. A for anger, L for lust, G for greed, A for attachment, and E for ego. So when I started to go into my meditations through the practice of Raj Yoga meditation, that algae started to come up in a different way. Like it was always there, but I really wasn't aware of the damage it was causing. But when I started to become more awakened, then I saw how debilitating this energy was, and how this energy was taking me away from my true freedom and my true fortune. So what's happening in the United States of America and across the world is that there is a light that has come upon us, and the light of the divine is definitely here. And it's touching the consciousness of his children, or it's touching the consciousness of souls. And as souls are awakening, we're also beginning to see the algae going, where are you going? Wait, you used to be so comfortable with me, why are you leaving me? And that's what we're witnessing. So when we're seeing protest and pandemics and thieveries and deceit and lies and power struggles and games, I look at that as the algae losing the battle. But it's just that it's now so obvious in front of our eyes, we're beginning to see that energy clearer than we did before, when it was okay for everyone to be that way. Now we're recognizing it isn't okay. It isn't okay to consider yourself superior to anyone because of the color of your skin, because of your political party, because of your religiosity. It's only okay if you accept that we're all God's children, but more than anything else, it is okay if you walk the talk of being God's child, and you're honest about it, and you're open about it, and you're transparent about it, and that you're really saying, I've got issues too, and I'm working on them. So can't we find a way to work this out? So that's what I'm seeing in the world. I don't like, though, the negativity that's happening, but I have accepted that some of this negativity I'm responsible for. Every time we've gotten upset, frustrated, we've added to that energy consciously. You know that. You know that. So we're all a part of this collective settling of karma. And the way I think we can settle it with grace is through remembrance of the One above.
And remembering that we are embodiments of that One.
Yeah.
That's really
And that's
beautiful.
definitely where we want to get back to. It's just, we're so distracted, Marbeth, with all the drama. And if you're not discerning and intelligent, you're going to be like, oh, what did they say today? Or what did he do? You don't care what he did. What is it that you need to do to bring in a golden aged world? That's an iron aged energy. We're not invested in that anymore. And I'd like to invite everybody who's watching, please, know that if you keep feeding that algae and that iron age, there's nothing left. You're not even leaving anything behind for your children. But if we take that step of courage and step into our own honesty, if I'm honest with myself, I will start to heal. I don't have to be perfect, but let me at least practice to be honest enough that my honesty will lead me to perfection.
And so if we're all one, which we are,
Yes.
and when we meditate, when we clear the algae, then we are affecting everyone else on the planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's really beautiful. So are you optimistic for humanity?
I want to be very transparent. I go in and out. I'm optimistic because I'm convinced that the age after this dark age will be a golden age. I don't question that. It's nature. After the winter passes, spring will come. So no one's going to stop that. I go in and out because I'm very sensitive to the well-being of my brothers and sisters. And when I see them so unkind with each other, it still affects me. Despite the fact that I know why they're doing it, and I know that it's the algae, and I know they're under an influence, but I'm still a human, and I don't want to see that. So I go in and out with that emotion. But at the bigger picture, Marbeth, I know a golden age is coming, and that's why I do what I do, and that's why I show up the best way I can. And even when I mess up, I go, it's okay. I'm going to embrace my shadow too, because that's not who I am. So I go in and out, you know. I just don't want to see us like this. It's just, it's painful. It's painful to see beings who are so beautiful forget their beauty and treat each other with this heavy, dark energy. And it's not who they are. But have you ever raised a teenager and you tried to give them a direction? That's like how it is, right?
It is.
You just have to get over it as a parent. Growing pains, you know.
And what do you think that there's a tipping point where if enough people are meditating, enough people are holding the space for this golden age, that what is the tipping point that's going to shift everyone into that?
I think when everybody have the same thought at the same time, it'll happen.
Okay. So what advice, do you have practical advice for anyone who's suffering right now and feeling powerless?
Embrace the feeling, one. And secondly, write down what you're feeling, two. Three, remind yourself nothing lasts forever. Four, well, what's the vision that you want to work towards to make it better? Don't be one of those people that complain and send out a tweet and think you've done your service for humanity. Don't be deceived. What are you doing? What are you doing to wake up humanity by your own awakening within? That's what I want people to really think about.
That's very beautiful. And so as we release our individual algae, so we're also at the same time, because we're all one, we're releasing the algae on the planet to some degree. So, what does your vision of a beautiful, healed, and transformed planet look like? How does it feel? What's happening there?
I think those individuals will carry in them the experience of having mastered themselves. They would not have any interest in the energy of algae, and so they would have a self-esteem about them. And they would all walk together as if they're all kings of kings. No one's best, no one's less. There's just this feeling of self-respect, and respectocracy would be on the land. They would be like living deities, each one in their own right, in their own worlds, in their own kingdoms, mastering through virtues, through values, through kindness, not trying to be kind, not trying to be loving. They just are, what you said earlier. They have become the embodiment of it. They've become the embodiment of all these values and virtues. And so when you see a society of individuals embodying those qualities, of course you're going to recognize we must be in heaven here, not up there. We must be in the golden aged world. So I see unity, I see respectocracy, I see a lot of vegetarianism. Nobody would hurt any of the animals, and everybody would get along. I know some of my friends who are vegans, they would say, you didn't mention no, no milk. And I would tell them, I'm not going to go there because I'm lactose intolerant. So I was a natural born vegan, but I still fall short on my pizza binges. So yeah, there'd just be, it's like what we used to watch in Disney, when it's a small world and it's a beautiful world, and life will be good. We'll be filled with the energy of God's love, that we won't even need to pray to God because we would embody all of His qualities. And so we would be sharing that with each other all the time. So it's as if God will be omnipresent, because every child will embody his virtues and values and powers. And that's how I see the future. And I'm pretty confident it's going to come.
Heaven on earth. I love
There we
it.
go. There we go.
So you set up, you founded a meditation museum in Washington, D.C., and now
Mm-hmm.
there are two. You're a pioneer. How did that happen?
When I was first transferred to Washington, D.C. from our New York regional branch of the Brahmakumaris, the first year I came to Washington, there are so many museums. There are like 180 museums here. And there is, in our teachings, it's called the Murli, and it's sharings from Brahma Baba, the founder, and definitely the energy of God's light would sneak in and would, keep telling us in the teachings, remember me, whatever you do, just remember me. Anyway, in the teachings of the Murli, Baba had said, is what we call Baba, God Baba, says when you're in big cities, open up grand museums. So I had kind of planted that seed, and I believe it was recorded in me to do this. So many years later, about 15 years later, we found a space and we opened up the first meditation museum in Silver Spring, Maryland. It was a grand success. Myself and Harriet Fulbright from the Fulbright Scholarship family did it together. And she came up with the narrative, I came up with the artistic ways of doing it, and she said to me, I'll always remember her words, if this works in Washington, D.C., Sister Jenna, this is it. And it has. So we expanded and we opened up another one in Tysons Corner, Virginia, and they've been well. During the pandemic, they were both closed, and so we ended up going online by doing daily online talks on our Meditation Museum YouTube channel, just to keep the community and the friends together, and that has been a beautiful experience. So the museum offers you to come in and look for you through the installations, the artwork, the meditations, the quiet room. It's just a beautiful, energetic space, and we're very humbled by the success of the meditation museums.
That's so amazing. When I think of Washington, D.C., I think of a city that's divisive and backbiting, and there's viciousness. Although there are people that are trying to do a good job, it just seems that they're fighting uphill. and yet you have brought spirituality into Washington, D.C. So what was that like?
It's easy. I don't have any motives. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I know that whatever we do as the Brahmakumaris, it's always to bring more light. And Washington, D.C. might seem divisive when you watch it on the news. There are some beautifully, powerfully inspired people here. And if it weren't for many of the leaders in Washington, D.C., I don't know if we would have existed, because we got their love and their respect and their trust, and that was what we needed to do what we did. And so I believe it's the intentions that you start anything with gets sustained. And so just for the world, Washington ain't that bad. It has its good points and its bad points. But this is a place, everyone, if you've ever come to Washington and you decide to, if you're ever planning to come to settle down here, this is a place that you can't be lazy, sit back, or wait for something to happen for you. This is the East Coast of the United States of America. It's the nation's capital for the world, so to speak. So when you're here, the land emotes in you to keep building your capacity. The land tells you what more can you offer to be of service. And I think, Marbeth, that's why we do so well here, because our team is wired that way. You know, a lot of people in meditation say, come, let's om and chant and sit and wait for a miracle. So we do that, but we go out also and create the miracle. You know, we've hosted almost 19 citywide events here already, and each of them have done incredibly well. So here, the land in Washington, D.C. says, keep doing, keep trying. What have you got in you? Who are you? How do you show up for service? And that's what I've loved about being in the nation's capital.
And so you feel that the people in the nation's capital are hungry for love and for extending that love and kindness.
I have to confess, I've never felt that. No, I don't think I'm wired that. I don't know if they are or not. Maybe I'm just so self-focused on my transformation as a spiritual, being, that wherever I show up, that's where we're going to do the work together. So whether you are from the secular side of this or you're fighting, I get it. I can see you're not getting along. But have we tried this? Can we try that? So for me, I come from that angle, and I think that's why there's so much trust and comfort. I remembered I go to a lot of functions, at least back in the day, before the pandemic, and I did so more when the museums were open. And my friends, who are pretty influential voices, we have a wonderful time together. So some will be doing, whether it's their vodka and scotch or whatever, and I'm like, Perrier with a twist, please, But that might have come from my nightclub days, where I could just roll and be very comfortable back in the days when I was in my 20s. So I'm just comfortable with everyone. I'm just not wired, and it could be because I'm half black, half Indian, from Jamaica, raised in America. I don't know. Maybe I'm like Chinese food or fried rice or khichdi. I don't know. But, I just see everything from a place of how can we work together and make the world a better place. I don't know if you're rich or poor, black or white, good or not good, however they define you, but is there something that we can do together that can make the world better? That's just how I show up.
I love it. So you mentioned your nightclub days, and
Back in the day.
We spoke before that we started the interview, and I mentioned that you raised butterflies, and I know that you are now this gorgeous, full-blown spiritual butterfly, and you're living your purpose, you're living your mission, you're spreading love, you're spreading peace all over the planet in a very big way, and yet we've all been caterpillars. So you mentioned being in your nightclub days. Tell us about that.
There's a song that I remembered about 10, 15 years ago when I started to reflect on how far I've traveled. The saint is but a sinner who fell down and got up. I love that song so much. So in my 20s, my parents were Brahmakumaris and Kumaris, and when they heard I bought a nightclub, they almost had a heart attack, and they're supposed to be yogis. And I was like, at that age, you're 21, you're like, well, whatever, mom and dad. And the name of the club was called The Globe. And it's funny because I'm still living that same lifestyle where I want to see the world come together and do something good. Oh my gosh, I don't think I've changed, Marbeth, now that we're talking. I'm like the same person. It's just instead of marketing alcohol, I market, we serve knowledge. Instead of disco and heavy metal, we do now meditation. And instrumental music. So I guess maybe I haven't changed much other than I've shifted what I do from an algae consciousness to soul consciousness. And that is a big change. That is a big change. So back in the days, everyone, your little sister Jenna that you're looking at today was really enjoying what the world would offer. And I have absolutely no regrets from those days. I enjoyed them profusely. One of my turning points was when I went down to my garage and I had a stressful moment of which car to drive that day. Was it going to be the Jaguar, the BMW, or the Mercedes? And it was something at that moment that went, what has happened to you, child? And I was just like, this is your stress? And there was something in that moment that started to turn something in me. And my mother, who has a very profound story, she was orphaned at 7 in orphanages, abused, abandoned. The worst things that could happen to a child who's orphaned at 7 onwards happened to my mother. So growing up with her, who's the African part to my Indian part, it was interesting. Here was my father, peaceful, and I hate to stereotype Indian men, and I love all of you out there. Om Shanti. You can't hold it against me. But, they're just really kind of proper, And here's my mother, who my father was in love with. She was just really, and she just came with a lot of broken pieces. And so when I was being raised with her, because they had separated, my father couldn't manage it anymore. There was just so much suffering and hurt and anger in my mother because it was normal, because of the life that she had lived as a child. She had no one to guide her. But when I was 16, and she came into the Brahmakumaris, and please know, Marbeth and everyone, she had been a Rastafarian, she had been a Jew, and you can't convert to Judaism. She had been a Christian, she had been, she had a guru, she had done unity, she had done this, and when she became a Brahmakumari, I go, okay, maybe another year or two, I'll see how long this lasts. But after about a year, there was a peace that I had never seen on her before. And there was a day that had happened, everyone. My mother was walking from the kitchen to her meditation room, and she kind of floated like this, like an angel. And I was only about 17 at the time. And I just looked at her like that, and in my mind I remember very well. I said, I want to be like that when I grow up. And what I had seen was this angel, was this angel. And so for me, what I'm recognizing is our call is there's an angel in every one of us despite where you're coming from. It doesn't matter where you have been and what you have been through. There's an angel that wants to emerge if you're willing to give God a chance to bring that light back in. So it's just been an incredible journey for me, and I'm humbled by it. I always tell my staff and friends and team, I go, look, if I'm supposed to leave my body right now, I swear, I would leave here in a party mode, because it was just a great ride, It was, it's been a ride of so many things, and all I can say, if what it means to be spiritual, and it means to accept your shadows and accept your limits, and that you can accept your beauty and your glory too, and be patient and allow it to shine when it's ready, then sign me up. And sign me up. And I think that's why I kind of love being with the Brahmakumaris. They kind of leave you alone and let you be what you need to be. I think the tenet of your love affair with the self and God is primary here. And we love that. I hope I made sense.
Beautiful, yeah, that's so beautiful. And I love that your mom, she accessed that place of peace
Yeah, it was Margaret. It was amazing when she changed. She used to be so angry, you know. And when I saw that change in her, I was like, well, I guess the Brahmakumaris might not be so bad. And I realized it was through the knowledge, the teachings, that you needed to understand what these thoughts and these emotions and these feelings are trying to signal to you. And then from that place, you make a decision. Do you want to feed your algae, or do you want to feed your self-worth, which is soul consciousness? And so it's been a great journey.
So then you're traveling with God. You're just,
I love that.
yeah, you're
First
just,
class.
yeah, first class, absolutely. I love it. And I think when you're in that space, when you're in the flow, when you've released the algae, when you're totally in communion with God in that time, everything, it's like the Red Sea parts, and there you
Yeah,
are. And
yeah.
so your amazing focus, this is why you've been able to accomplish everything that you have.
Perhaps. And one of the things my friends always say is how approachable I am and how comfortable they feel when they're with me. And I think it's because I really don't have the bandwidth up here to judge you, to determine if you're pure or impure. It's not of interest to me. I have no idea if you are. But what I do know is that I've got issues that I have to work on. And again, I go back to my broken record. But what can we do together to make the world a better place? And that just seems to be my wiring in this incarnation, and I'm not complaining. In India, or in certain countries, so to speak, they tend to look at spirituality where, you know, you're this very firm, strong, stable pillar of power. And I believe there are certain individuals who carry that energy and offer that energy. But what about those who might be the flow of that energy too, who aren't afraid to show you their shortcomings, to let you know that it is a journey and that we're going to fall down and we're going to get up, but we're going to stay in the light despite whatever challenges we have. And I think that's my story and that's my life's message, is that we get ultimately to our final destination, which will be the embodiment of God's love and God's light. But here are some of the things that you might go through before you get there. And I think that's what my life represents to the world. Sometimes people don't understand it. You know, they call you Sister Jenna and they want you to come out looking like, you know, really like this and Om Shanti and I'm this. But that's not who I am. I'm too open and honest and truthful to try to portray that to people, for them to accept me as spiritual. And I think people are going to have a big wake-up call about what is real spirituality. It is being very truthful. It's being very noble, very honest. It's to be humble enough to reveal your vulnerabilities and to be humble enough to let people know, you know, you made a mistake. And can you help me? There's no doubt that individuals who are on some path of spirituality, they might carry certain unique experiences that maybe individuals who haven't awakened as yet have not. So then, of course, turn to them for support and help. But don't lose yourself in them. Keep some sort of a focus in terms of a relationship between you and God, and allow that energy of God's love and vibration to attract the right energies around you, and then see in what way you can all work together. And I think that will be a beautiful world, don't you?
I definitely think so. So you've worked with Fortune 500 companies.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us a little bit about that.
It's fine. You know, you go into companies that seem to be making a lot of money at the end of the year, but at the end of the day, it's about people. It's not about companies and profits as such. How well does your team get along with each other, and to what extent are they cooperative and happy in the workplace? So that's been most of my focus with working with companies, that they feel just more trust in that environment and openness in the environment. That's been important. I know you might ask me about my work with OWN and Oprah Winfrey. A few years ago, they did a wonderful TV series called The Belief series, which would be ideal to show actually at this conference, and I think it'll be a wonderful addition to show. There are many series, about 8 or 9 series, where they cover various faiths for about an hour each program, but I'm sure you can work it out. But anyway, we had this wonderful time of, it's not an easy program to sort of launch a television show on God in the United States or even around the world.
True.
So many of us has had to bring our heads together to see what's the softest, most integrous way that we could bring a show like this to the world. And so we did that, and I met some beautiful people, and I'll have to tell you now publicly, Oprah Winfrey is one of the nicest, clearest, deepest, sincerest, clearest billionaire I've ever met, and media mogul. She knows how greatly powerful she is, and so she doesn't walk around with that chip on her shoulder, even though I'm sure that when decisions have to be made in a boardroom, you're clear who's sitting at the table, at the head of the table. But from my many interactions with her, she's just real. And if you're not real, don't waste her time. And that's what we need, more real people and individuals who can show up. Again, like I said, everyone, find the people around you that you can work together for the common good. That's what the world needs now more than ever. So it was great working with her and the team, and Joshua Dubois from Values Partnerships, which Joshua was the head of the White House Faith-Based Initiative during the Obama administration, and Joshua and his team at Values Partnership are the best team. They organize national calls with thousands of leaders from inside of America, outside of America, to move narratives in countries and in the world. So just wonderful groups of people. I can go on, just a lot of great people.
Wonderful. I can listen forever. I wanted to ask you on your thoughts on the differences between religion and spirituality.
I think religion helps to give you some sort of a structure, some sort of a historical overview. And I think it's important. But I think spirituality is where you really do the real work, and you really tap inwards to figure out what's coming through you, or what has the ability to come through you as a result of the current issues. All the religions that we're seeing today were not religions at the beginning. They were spiritual. And there were individuals who were looking for answers due to certain intense times in the world. And the fact that we're in a very tumultuous period historically around the world at the same time, I believe there's a new sort of a spirituality that's going to be emerging. That's what makes, again, your conference so timely. People are going to recognize, I've got to change me. I am who I've been waiting for. It's not a political leader who's going to make my life better. I have to start here. So I think the spiritual aspect is really about the honesty with the self and the transformation that's required within the self, so that you can, walk on the planet with just with solutions, with grace, with power, with beauty, with joy, even with innocence, to be playful. I think that's what spirituality offers.
I know, I love the playfulness aspect. So now we have riots in the middle of this pandemic, and I understand the reasons, although they've become politicized and divisive. So what is your advice to people regarding this current situation?
It's funny. I was just on the news show talking about the same question. Take a breath. Historically, this has been going on. There are certain entities that have the ability to create chaos, to disempower the motivation and the enthusiasm of its people. And I think that that's what we're witnessing. I don't know about other countries, but I've seen it in many countries, but in America for sure, that you can feel very disempowered about the things that you're seeing with now smartphones. You have to think about how times have changed, that a person could be dying and a person's just holding up a smartphone, recording that. They don't jump in. It's more important to record a person dying than going to rescue them. So everything is changing, and we are needing a complete spiritual reboost. We need a life reset, a soul reset. And I believe that all of this uprising is us wanting to get away from this algae, wanting to get this energy out of our personality. And we just don't know how. So we might, record it and think it's a big deal, or have somebody try to tell me what to do. But in reality, in order to get rid of this algae, I'm going to have to start to do the work on myself. And so, regardless of whatever the world is showing you, what are you doing? Are you treating your wives with respect? Are you treating your husband with the honor that he deserves? Are your children being given a good example? What are you doing just from your homes alone? And so we have to start to think that way before we can cast judgment on political, uprisings or protests that are out there. I get that. And so, do you have that same energy in your home? Do you take it to your workplace? Do you take it on the bus, on the train, in your car? What role are you playing? If you really want a world that's safe, are you living it? And I think that's what I would tell people, that before I cast a stone, who's here without sin? Who's going to cast a stone? And so this particular time that we're in, Marbeth, it's the big realization. It's the huge wake-up call for all of humanity. And I hope that this conference that you're putting on, which is monumental and it's huge, the amount of energy you and your team must have put in for this is no joke. And I know at the core of how you are all feeling isn't about all the big names you're getting or the people who are doing great grassroots. It's the fact that whoever watches this realizes, I have to change. I have to change. And so I commend you on the energy that you're putting in for this. And it's my invitation to everyone out there. Stop blaming people. Turn your attention inwards. Become honest. You have the courage to shift your waste thinking, waste behavior into wonder. Just have to start. You just have to start.
That's so beautiful. I noticed, when we're talking about the anger that we have toward other people, so often we're projecting the anger that we have toward ourselves, the guilt, the shame, the feelings of insufficiency, and yet we project them outward, and so that because it's too much for us to even own. So how do we deal with that?
It's going to sound like a broken record. Honesty. Truth is truth. Truth is truth. And you can't change truth, but truth will change you. So the truth is, we need to be honest if we're going to heal. Have you ever started a diet? Have you ever tried to diet?
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I just know I can do it. And you go into it and And then 3 days later, you snuck in the fridge and you took a little piece of that chocolate cake because no one's watching. And then you tell everyone, oh, I've been on a diet for a whole week. But then everybody noticed, but you haven't lost any weight. So the whole thing is be honest with yourself. And through your honesty, you will be free.
I think that's beautiful, and I think also that if the way that we can project love on other people, then we'll also receive it because we're all one. Everything.
A lot of people will ask me, well, how do I meditate? My mind goes here and there. I can't focus, and I can't empty my mind. Don't empty your mind. Keep your mind with thoughts that are productive, useful, beneficial, and pure. And I'd like to offer a very simple meditation together. Is that okay with you?
I would love that.
All right. So this is for anyone can do this. And I think a lot of people will get a different kind of idea about how to meditate. So everyone now out there, make sure you're not in your car driving listening, because we're not responsible. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Take another deep breath. And exhale. Now I'd like you, with your eyes opened, to wish the person that's in your home, in your apartment, next door, maybe someone on the screen, maybe someone you felt has given you sorrow. Just immerse them in your mind, and what I'd like you to do is to wish them well, to send them your beneficial thoughts like this. I wish you well. I wish you the best in life. I wish you to be benefited. I send you my purest feelings and good wishes. My blessings are with you. And as you observe how you feel by that simple practice, you will recognize that you just meditated because you felt better about yourself. That's simple. It's that simple to meditate. Become a well-wisher for others, and your mind will become more at peace with itself. That's it.
Yeah, very simple, and yet you're creating unity, and you're finding the you're wishing by wishing well. I know that as we give to others, we're really giving to ourselves, so we can't help but feel good.
Yeah.
So that's very beautiful, very simple, and yet very profound. I know from one, I'm going to learn more about the Brahmakumaris. I know I was at the temple, I believe, in India when I was there.
Mount Abu, Madhuban, at the headquarters of the Brahmakumaris. Yeah, it's a beautiful space, isn't it? We have so many campuses there. In Mount Abu, Rajasthan, India is where the headquarters of the Brahmakumaris is located, and we have the old building which was called Pandav Bhavan, which is the original place where Brahma Baba, the founder, resided. And then we have another facility called Gyan Sarovar, which we hold a lot of our conferences at. And then we have the larger facility, which houses about 20,000 guests, where we have massive conferences and programs there. But we also have two beautiful hospitals up in the mountain, because it's in such a far or remote area that we have so many international guests that comes in, but also the villagers. And so we have the J. Watamal Global Research Hospital there, and what's also known as the Trauma Center, all up in Rajasthan in the Mount Abu area. And they're offering everybody such great service, these hospitals, and they're not charging the villagers for their work. But of course the hospital always needs support, so by all means, if you can, it will be great. The hospital is always in need for support, supplies, equipments, doctors, nurses to go in and train. So that particular space, when I go there and I see it and I visit the hospital, Marbeth, my heart get so moved because I see how much work they're doing. And these villagers, Marbeth, will come in and they're kind of scared, you know, because they're not accustomed to coming into a hospital. Most of their ways of treatment have been through Ayurvedic means and so on, natural forms. And the relationship between the hospital now and the community has become like it's a family there. It's just, it's a hidden secret. It's just a hidden jewel. I could go on, but there's so much good in the world. But when you start to see good and do good, you will find good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you'll just find it.
You are such a gem, and this time has passed so quickly. Do you have, I know you've been sharing so many pearls of wisdom. Is there one that you would like to leave us with?
Yes, love everybody the same.
Very beautiful. Thank you
The
so
reason
much.
why, the reason why I leave that with you is it's because of attachment that we have so much conflict. So if I can start to practice to love everybody the same, there'll be less conflict.
I love that. Very beautiful and very pure. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been my honor.